In 2021, Max Verstappen said something that should have been impossible for any driver to mean. He told Ziggo Sport, "I have said to him I only work with him. As soon as he stops, I stop too." That man was Gianpiero Lambiase, his race engineer, his pit wall voice, the person on the other end of every furious radio message, every championship-defining strategy call, every moment of triumph and tension across 4 consecutive world titles. Today, Lambiase agreed to join McLaren. Red Bull confirmed nothing. McLaren confirmed nothing. But multiple sources from De Telegraph to ESPN to Sky Sports all point in the same direction. The man Verstappen said he could not race without is going to his biggest rival. And the timing could not be worse. Subscribe to F1 Perspective. This one is going to matter all season. Let's get into it. Gianpiero Lambiase is 45 years old, British-Italian, and has spent the last decade as the most successful race engineer in Formula One. Not one of the most successful, the most successful. He became Verstappen's engineer at the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix, the race where an 18-year-old won on his Red Bull debut and became the youngest race winner in the sport's history. That weekend was not the beginning of a working relationship. It was the beginning of something rarer, a partnership built on what Verstappen himself described as brutally honest communication. The radio exchanges between them became part of Formula One's soundtrack, tense, direct, sometimes heated, always functional. Verstappen would push, Lambiase would push back. Neither would yield to the other unnecessarily. And across 10 years and 71 wins and 4 championships, that dynamic produced the most dominant driver-engineer combination the sport has seen since Michael Schumacher and Ross Brawn at Ferrari. The bond was so total that Verstappen made it contractual in everything but name. He told the world that Lambiase's departure was his departure. No engineer, no Verstappen. That is not something drivers say casually. And now the engineer is going. McLaren did not stumble into this signing, they hunted it, and they are getting very good at this specific kind of hunt. Rob Marshall, Red Bull's chief designer for over 17 years, joined McLaren in 2023. His fingerprints are on every car that won Red Bull's 4 consecutive constructors' titles. Will Courtenay, Red Bull's head of strategy, joined McLaren this year as sporting director. His decisions shaped the strategic framework that turned Verstappen from fast driver into 4-time champion, and now Lambiase. 3 of the most important people behind Red Bull's dominant era, all at McLaren, all within 3 years. McLaren reportedly offered Lambiase what sources describe as an astronomical salary, a multi-million-pound deal significantly above his current Red Bull earnings. Aston Martin wanted him as team principal, Williams wanted him. McLaren made the offer, none of them could match. The role at McLaren will see Lambiase work alongside current team principal Andrea Stella, taking on in-weekend racing responsibilities that Stella currently manages alone. The growing complexity of Formula One operations means no single person can cover everything from race strategy to driver management to technical direction across an entire weekend. Lambiase is the solution to that problem. For McLaren, this is not a personnel decision, it is an architecture decision. They are systematically importing the institutional knowledge that built Red Bull's empire and rebuilding it in Woking. To understand why Lambiase's departure hits so hard, you need to see the full list of who has left Red Bull in the last 2 years. Adrian Newey, the greatest car designer in Formula One history, left for Aston Martin. 26 world championships walked out of Milton Keynes. Christian Horner, the team principal who built the dynasty, was sacked in July and replaced by Laurent Mickes. Jonathan Wheatley, sporting director, the architect of Red Bull's operational excellence, left for Audi. Helmut Marko, the advisor who discovered Verstappen, who shaped every driver decision the team made across 2 decades, departed at the end of last year. Matt Corler, Verstappen's chief mechanic, Ole Schack, his long-serving front-end mechanic, and now Lambiase. Every person who formed Verstappen's inner circle at Red Bull is either gone or going. The car that won 4 championships was built by people who are now designing McLaren's future. What remains at Red Bull is a team that has not won a race in 2026, that is running a completely new power unit for the first time in its history, that has a driver publicly considering leaving Formula One entirely, and that is watching its most experienced personnel continue to leave for the team that beat them to the 2025 Constructors' title. This is not a rebuild, this is an unraveling. The Lambiase news lands on top of an existing Verstappen situation that was already complicated. At Suzuka, Verstappen publicly stated he was considering walking away from Formula One at the end of 2026. His Red Bull contract runs until 2028, but sources have told ESPN that clauses exist in the deal that could allow him to leave early. He has talked openly about racing at the Nürburgring 24 hours, about his desire to compete in other series, about his frustration with the 2026 regulations that he has called anti-racing. The car that was supposed to mark Red Bull's arrival as a fully independent power unit manufacturer has produced 3 races of results, placing Verstappen 9th in the championship. But zoom out further and the picture gets darker. Verstappen has not just lost Lambiase, he has lost Helmut Marko, the man who discovered him at 16, who fought for him when Red Bull wanted to replace him, who was the one person inside the organization who understood him completely. He lost Jonathan Wheatley, whose operational precision made the pit stops that won races. He lost Adrian Newey, whose aerodynamic genius made the cars that allowed Verstappen to express himself. He lost Matt Corler, his chief mechanic, and Ole Schack, his front-end mechanic, the people who touched his car every single race weekend for years, the people who knew his preferences, his rhythms, his habits. One by one, his Formula One world has been dismantled around him, and now the last one is going. None of that context was improved by learning that Lambiase specifically chose McLaren, the team that ended Red Bull's run of 4 consecutive constructors' titles, the team that gave Lando Norris his first drivers' championship, the team that beat Verstappen by 2 points in Abu Dhabi last year. It is not a neutral exit, it is a statement. The statement Verstappen made in 2021, "I only work with him, as soon as he stops, I stop," now reads differently. Lambiase has not stopped. He has chosen to continue his career at a different team. Whether that changes Verstappen's 2028 contract calculation is the question nobody at Red Bull wants to answer publicly. But privately, it is the only question that matters. Step back from the Verstappen story for a moment and look at what McLaren are actually building. Because this signing only makes full sense when you see it as part of a pattern that has been running for 3 years. Rob Marshall, Red Bull's chief designer for 17 years, joined McLaren in 2023. The cars he designed won 4 consecutive Constructors' Championships. Will Courtenay, Red Bull's head of strategy, joined McLaren this year as sporting director. His strategic frameworks shaped every pit wall decision across that same dominant era. And now Lambiase, head of racing, race engineer, the operational brain behind Verstappen's 4 titles. 3 people, 3 different disciplines, all from the same championship-winning environment, all now at McLaren. This is not coincidence. This is a transfer of institutional knowledge on a scale Formula One has rarely seen. McLaren are not trying to copy what Red Bull built. They are hiring the people who built it and letting them build it again, this time in Woking. For a team that has already won back-to-back constructors' titles in 2024 and 2025 and is now aiming at something more permanent. There is also the Andrea Stella dimension. Reports have linked McLaren's current team principal to a potential return to Ferrari, a move that would open the door for Lambiase to step into a more prominent leadership role than his current brief suggests. Sky Sports understands his title at McLaren will be head of race engineering, but if Stella leaves, the trajectory of that role changes completely. McLaren may not just be buying Lambiase the engineer, they may be positioning him as a future team principal. And for Red Bull, watching all of this happen from the outside, the question is not just how they replace him, it is whether the institutional knowledge he carries, the decade of experience managing Verstappen, the understanding of what a championship-winning operation looks like from the inside, can ever be replaced at all. 4 championships, 71 wins, 10 years, 1 voice, now gone. Losing Newey, Horner, Marko, Wheatley, and now Lambiase within 2 years is not a reshuffle. It is a structural collapse in slow motion. Verstappen is left 9th in the standings, driving regulations he hates, watching the last person he trusted walk out the door. Whether he is still in Formula One by the time Lambiase arrives at McLaren in 2028 is no longer hypothetical. Subscribe to F1 Perspective. We will track every development.